Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us from our Abuja studio is Professor Maurice Iwu, President of Bioresources Development Group, an independent biosciences research and development organization that cultivates, processes, and produces medicines and cosmetics from natural products. He's also a member of the board of directors of Nimeth International Pharmaceuticals PLC and was a professor of pharmacognosy at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Professor Iwu also served in the public service as a chairman of INEC and conducted the first successful election for the transition from one democratically elected government to another. He introduced the electronic voter registration regime and also established the Electoral Institute. Welcome to the morning show, Prof. Prof, good morning.
Ruben.
It's good to see you, Prof.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning. Well, I hear you are now pursuing a healthy living initiative with herbs and all that. Prof, at what point did you become a herbalist? What is this all about?
I was trained as one.
As a herbalist?
I beg your pardon. Pharmacognosy is some form of herbalism too. Yes, it's a natural product medicine. You can call it herbalism. Yes.
But please, Prof, tell us about this initiative that your company, your research institute, is proposing.
For over 20 years now, we've been looking at medicinal plants as sources of medicine. It's not just having plants as medicine, but it's a whole totally different way of looking at medicine. Instead of looking at the diseases, we are now focusing on the individual. And the whole idea is to have the whole gamut of healthcare. And instead of talking about how when people get sick, the whole emphasis now is on how to maintain optimum health. So for 25 years, doing research at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, at Walter Reed Institute in Washington, and also in our own private laboratories, we decided to do the translation from research to practical products. And the whole idea is to pioneer the concept of not having to wait until you are sick before it can take care of your health. It's just like if you have a car and you don't maintain it, and all you are waiting for is when the car breaks down, then you go to the mechanic. Of course, it will cost you more. And the whole fact that we have everything we need in Nigeria, in Africa for that matter, to be able to take care of ourselves and maintain our optimum health without necessarily having to go to the doctor as often as we do now.
You talked about products. Have you come up with some specific products?
Yes.
What are those products?
Yes, for example, when we had the Ebola crisis, people were surprised that something as simple as bitter cola, Garcinia cola, had compounds in them that could stop the growth of the Ebola virus. We then have a situation where simple things that you have always known in your life, like ordinary tomatoes, if you concentrate the constituents, it will be very good for people who have prostate sickness. And then also simple things like the scent leaf, you can use them to manage people who have high blood pressure. And such products are things that are everyday. We have also pioneered the whole idea of fermenting coconut oil into a particular type of veggie coconut oil, which people are using now to treat their ulcers, that is stomach ulcers, gastric ulcers, and all sorts of ulcers. But the whole concept here is that these things are not medicines per se, they are everyday food, but when used differently, when processed differently, they become very useful and they become medicines. And the concept of medicine as food is not new to us. It has been preached years back by the father of medicine, who said, let their food be their medicine. And that whole concept, so to speak, is what we are trying to pioneer. The product we have in the range, we also have a product which is made from ordinary lemongrass, and then those are usually used to calm people down. So what we did was, instead of relying on people farming from time to time, we have our own organic farms where we cultivate without any chemicals in the farms. We have 4 such farms, and what we are cultivating there are things like bitter leaf, and our bitter leaf without any fertilizers, without any pesticides, are as big as tobacco leaves. What is even striking with the bitter leaf is the fact that up to now, the research has been done not only by us, but by other scientists, show that it is one of the best chemopreventive agents for cancer. And people have been using them. And we are not saying that you must have to buy the one made by somebody else. It's just that when you have to take something like a bitter leaf, you have to take tons and tons of them to have the same effect. The former vice chancellor of Idahosa University, when he was in the US, did a lot of studies on that. And right now, as we speak, all over the world, people are looking at how can you convert the active compounds in bitter leaf, both as an anti-cancer agent and also for the treatment of diabetes. And those are the kind of things that we are trying to promote. These are everyday, simple products like the pawpaw leaf and so on. You can't believe that there is a plant that is used in southeast of Nigeria for cooking soup. The same plant, the same seed, if used differently, can be a contraceptive that people can use to be able to prevent unwanted pregnancy. So the whole gamut of it is there. And even our vegetable cocoa fruits, instead of using cocoa to prepare beverages, those of us that are 60 plus, you have to be able to be taking your cocoa powder daily to be able to make sure that your cognitive health is intact, so that things like Alzheimer's disease and so on doesn't come your way because of the polyphenols that we know that are in cocoa. These are the kind of things that I captured in a book called Food as Medicine. And it's not because it is for the academics. It is actually good that people be able to know what is in the environment and be able to live a healthy life. All you need actually 3 things. You exercise, you rest, and you eat well. And if you do all that, you will now find that you will be able to have optimal health instead of waiting for when you are sick to go and see the doctor.
Indeed, very interesting, Prof. It sounds like we have undervalued nature over the years. But you did mention Ebola. I'm very particular about that, as we have currently an outbreak in Democratic Republic of Congo, the 10th one so far since it was first discovered. You were part of a committee set up by the Nigerian government at the peak of it when we had a case in Nigeria as well, imported, to find a cure for Ebola. What happened to that committee, and how close are we to finding a cure for Ebola?
I'm glad that you asked that question. We always do this knee-jerk approach. When we had Ebola, we were really doing there was a group set up by Ministry of Health. But interestingly, as soon as that episode passed, we now relaxed back to our silos and then doing the same thing we used to do, namely ignoring science and ignoring research. No single effort has been made pursuant to that particular study. What we do is we wait so that if the white man finds some cure or something they believe that can cure, we subject ourselves to be used as guinea pigs for testing. But nobody is interested in promoting research. In America, where I worked earlier, as I mentioned, it is a strategic disease. Some people use it as even they consider it as a military weapon, as a biological weapon. So most of the research done on Ebola are done in military facilities. Because of the nature of the disease, you have to have a containment laboratory where the virus will not pose a danger. And nothing else has actually been done since that time. The compound that is active for Ebola is known. The structures are known. The University of Ibadan has published over 25 research articles, University of Ibadan, 25 papers on the active compound that is in Garcinia cola. But it's interestingly, not even a single effort has been made by the governments all across the continent to be able to look it forward. And the beautiful thing about research, they don't need to come to Professor Maurice Iwu to be able to promote it. Once you publish the result, it's like playing tennis. You play it to the other side, the other person can play it back. Anybody can take up the research. It's called colaviron. We described the active compound 30 years ago. The structure is well known, and the work is in public domain. So you don't even need any permission from us to be able to market or work on Ebola. And what's more importantly, the drug Garcinia, we have it even in capsules, it's in the marketplace, it's in pharmacies in Nigeria. So there is no reason why people who have such problems cannot easily buy on their own. When we had Ebola here, the doctors, without acknowledging that Garcinia work, most of them bought the capsules, and we are actually taking them themselves because they don't know the patient that are going to come across what the person has. The same thing with HIV, AIDS, and so on. There are drugs, there are plants. People at the University of Maiduguri did a study with black seed oil, where they mix it with honey. And it has been helping the HIV patients. But these things have to be subjected to rigorous clinical trials. And the only people that can do it are only companies like ours that have the financial muscle, and then the government. And we can only do so much at a time. We have sponsored about 5 clinical researches on our own, but others should be able to do likewise. Particularly the government should be able to encourage research into certain. Ebola is good that you mentioned it, and it's going to be key ravaging us because we live in a tropical country where we are in close contact with animals, and these animals carry diseases that we have never come across because we are not in their world. And we should be able to be more prepared than we are, but we are not, because as soon as the Ebola crisis passes, everybody they will go back to their silos and do what they do best, which is just doing politicking and all that. But it is a strategic research that the military should be involved, the scientific community should be involved, because it is a disease that can wipe out a whole country if care is not taken.
Well, Prof, where will you locate your effort? Within the province of alternative medicine, or within the province of mainstream science? If it is mainstream science and research, what efforts have you made, to locate it properly within the mainstream? Because this is not really an African problem, in my view. This is an international issue.
Yeah, what we are doing is not an African problem, it is an international issue. On our own part, we built a first-class laboratory in Imo State. I won't call it a laboratory, we call it a facility, because we do a good manufacturing practice, GMP level products there. And what happened is that right now, it is not alternative medicine at all. Alternative to what? It is the mainstream medicine. Most of the drugs that that you come across, that you use every day, have their origin in nature. But where we are missing it is that we are not investing in that aspect of science. My company also, we are a major shareholder in NIMED. NIMED is a pharmaceutical company. We pride ourselves that we are the only company that is able to make a drug for sickle cell anemia. It's an African disease. It's a disease that affects black people. It is easy to import Panadol and sell it at a premium and make money. We may not be the most successful company, but we are so proud of the fact that we are an African pharmaceutical company. We're able to sell cyclavit, which is made from pigeon pea, ordinary pigeon pea. We call it few of you in where I come from. And then we use it for treating sickle cell anemia. Apart from the work being done at NIPRID, I don't see any other effort being done by any other African country or any other African government or any African university in trying to tackle sickle cell disease, except the drug that we have, which is called cyclavit. So the point we are trying to preach here is that we have all that it takes as a nation to be able to pioneer this area and be able to use what we have to solve the problems we have. Our healthcare will be better if we can look inwards. And incidentally, in the West now, people are no longer talking about having drugs for treatment of diseases. You hear people now talking about ordinary vegetable coconut oil for treatment of a lot of diseases, because we have now realized that the simplest thing that can happen to any human body is when the catabolism sets in, when the body starts breaking apart. And how you can stop it is to be able to have products that will be able to arrest that metabolic drift and then be able to do that. In the West now, they are putting much more emphasis on trying to address that fundamental issue of metabolic syndrome. How do you, when the metabolism of the body goes bad, and they are no longer using drugs, they are going into dietary supplement, they are going into being able to exercise themselves, they're even looking at epigenetic factors. Epigenetic is not like a genetic, that is how the environment where the child is conceived. So that some people are saying that women, as soon as they are pregnant, you should be able to put them on a maternal care. That instead of having the 3 months maternal leave just before you have a baby, that for the period of gestation, that woman should be given a VIP, if you like, treatment, so that because whatever environment the fetus develop under is what will happen when the child comes to this adulthood. Some of the criminals we have now, actually some of the chemicals that the mothers ingested when they were in the baby. So it's a more holistic issue. And it's a big business. It's $1 billion business for Africa alone, but we are not tapping into it because there is no investment in that sector.
Well, Prof, I commend your efforts. And, if I may say so, there are some other persons also who are doing similar things in Nigeria. I know of Father Ansem Adodo. a Catholic priest who is also,
Yes.
you know, doing
Yes.
a lot in this direction. I reviewed his book.
Fantastic job, yes.
His seminal book that he wrote. But
Yes.
is there any collaboration among, you know, within that community?
Oh, yeah, fantastic collaboration. Both of us are doing...
Please, go on, go on.
Yes, we are fantastic collaboration. Both of us are doing a book now on Nigeria, Healing Plants of Nigeria, which will come out before the end of the year. Father Adodo's center in Benin is doing a fantastic job. As I mentioned, the former Vice Chancellor of Idahosa University is also doing some work on that. University of Ibadan has a pioneer laboratory that have been working on the biochemical mechanism of action of this. University of Maiduguri is working on a plant we call black seed oil. University of Nigeria and Nsukka. All the universities, we do most of our own clinical research in two universities, University of Lagos and Nnamdi Azikiwe University at Awka. And these two universities have done us proud in the sense that they use clinical trials using the state-of-the-art facilities, and also they're also doing using all the laws that are in the land. They are trying to comply with all the regulations in making sure that those products have passed through all the tests. What the argument here, the point I'm making here, after all that done, you still need a farm, you still need the agriculture. It's a whole spectrum issue. You need an agricultural center. You need to even fund the universities to do some of the basic researches we cannot do at the centers. You also need to also fund the pharmaceutical companies, give them grants so that they'll be able to take our product at a higher risk. Because if you have a product that, like malaria, for example, even if you have all the every Nigerian taking a particular anti-malaria drug, the pharmaceutical company will still not break even, because you need a certain amount of millions of dollars for the company to break even in the investment made in developing those products. So it's a whole spectrum issue, and that is what I want to be able to highlight, those drugs, those products in our environment that can be taken over time. They are not like drugs. You don't want a magic bullet. We have passed that era of magic bullet. We have now known that magic bullets, yes, they work, they do fantastic things, but they also are dangerous. They can also kill you if you are not careful.
Prof, you've mentioned a range of natural things that we can use to begin to do preventive medicine. But statistics shows that well over 50% of people in Africa, including Nigeria, depend on this sort of medicine. But when you look at the global market share of herbal medicine, or people in your profession, you see that countries like the Asia Pacific, countries like Europe, America, are the ones with the greater market share of this. So with all of this going on, how do we reconcile the amount, the population taking this? Is it that we have a knack for everything foreign, including natural medicine?
Yes, I agree with you. Why people go to their backyards and get a particular treatment and cure. But when one's product, right now, for example, Nigerian guava leaves are in high demand, but we don't have enough to even service the industry. We have a situation where even ordinary groundnut, the back of the groundnut is medicinal, but we don't have enough to even service the industry. So what our whole problem here is capacity. We do not have the capacity. That's why Nigerian, African does not even constitute 1% of the global market. The WHO recently published a list of plants that have been recommended for treatment of disease. Only 4 plants from Africa made that list. The reason is very simple. There is no deliberate documentation of these findings in a manner that others will have confidence in them to try them. Second problem we have is that of capacity. Right now, for example, when people do cashew nuts, the cashew nut that they buy in our supermarkets originally have to come from Nigeria, go overseas, get processed, and come back. There's no one single cashew nut processing factory in the whole country. And it's a shame. And so we are busy investing in all sorts of feel-good industries, but nothing is being done in an area where we have a comparative addition to be able to compete with others. What is happening there is that right now, for example, even in the orthodox medicine, the pharmaceuticals, you'll be surprised, Ruben, that there is not a single active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturer in the whole country. Everything we do in the pharmaceutical area is imported, except as a cyclavit that is made by us. Other ones are imported, and it's a shame. And this is why we like you quoted, a lot of Africans use medicinal plants, but when it comes to medicinal plants as a business, as a commerce, it's only here in Nigeria. You just mentioned Father Adodo's past herbal medicine and ours and one or two others. That's all. And we don't even have the capacity to be able to do that. If you try even going to the banks for the bank to give you money for you to have somebody farm for you, they will want the money to be paid back in 3 months, 9 months. There is no farmer who will tell you that he will be able to recoup what he has invested in those farms in such a short time.
Well,
the massive amount of cultivation they do to be able to be able to fill that gap. Right now, for example, any state government that invests in coconut, veg coconut oil, is in global demand, but we can't even meet our own share of the market for internal consumption, not to talk of to be able to sell to others outside Nigeria.
Well, Prof,
that is actually the problem.
Prof,
so we are trying to take a, yes, Ruben.
You've been in government.
Go ahead,
you
Ruben.
know how government works. So all of this taken together in terms of policy and consequential action, what kind of advice will you give the Nigerian government, both present and future?
Yeah, we are working with two government agencies. We are working with SON. I chair a committee where we have now standardized 12 Nigerian plants. And standardization means that it is at a level that the African Union has now adopted them as product that we have standardized. Those 12 can now be able to be cultivated, processed, used as medicine. I also work with Ministry of Health. We have a pharmacopoeia. I chair the pharmacopoeia commission where we are now trying to develop a standard pharmacopoeia for the medical doctors. And so it's really something that the government's own action is to be a facilitating agency here, not to actually do anything on their own, but to facilitate. Government, for example, through the CBN, can, as part of their strategic lending, can make medicinal plant pharmaceutical as a major component of their strategic lending, because that's an area where they will have a very good return and be able to grow the economy in a diverse manner, because it's not only the pharmaceutical companies, the farmers who grow them, the truckies who convey them, and so on. It's a sector that we have a very whole lot to do. And much more importantly, Ruben, there are so many plants that can only grow maximally in Nigeria, that even if others take it and grow elsewhere, it will not do as well. One particular plant we call Prunus africana. Prunus is a drug that is used for male prostate disease. It's #1 class drug for that purpose. But because it is so scarce, the world body has now classified it as a banned product. You cannot export it across countries. And it only grows maximally between Nigeria and Cameroon. Something like that, the government of Cross River, for example, can invest in cultivating prunus. Prunus can then become, prunus is more expensive than gold. To tell you how costly prunus is. Well, a small gram of prunus extract is more expensive than gold.
Well, I would like to ask you a question about ethics. Because, I mean, apart from the professionals, the well-known figures that are, like you, involved in this area, there are also some people who are involved at the artisanal level, using medicinal plants and creating products, you know, sometimes products that can give you energy, aphrodisiacs, and all kinds. What are the ethical challenges involved, considering that this is a growing area and a lot of artisanal institutions are also involved?
Yeah, it is a very big problem. A lot of quacks out there. A lot of people are mixing things that have no value, and a lot of them are even dangerous. But it is not in a manner significant enough to compare with those who are being killed by trained, qualified, degree-holding doctors. Medicine is a risky business. Those people also kill. But the difference is that they certify their own deaths. They have the power to satisfy that they have killed this person and the person is dead. But these other people don't have. That is a very harsh thing to say, I know. But the other aspect is the fact that with time, we learn a whole lot from the mistakes of people. That is actually what science is all about. Science is a calculated risk. you'll be able to experiment and find out what happened. For example, it is shameful now, for example, we don't have a dossier of all the Agbo medicines that you can formulate, because we have always looked at them as by the side. But at this stage in our development, we should have a recipe of the Agbos you can take. We should have a recipe of, there's a drug that people in Mbise in my part of the world have. They call it Ajom Bise. That means when a woman is near labor, near time trying to deliver, the mother carries a basket of herbs to go for the time of delivery. In that basket of herbs, all sorts of mixtures are in there. It is important that we now be able to have this Ajom Bise come into mainstream medicine. There's also something that happens in my degree area, what they call Shayankaya. That means things used for making teas. If you go to one of those shops in Maiduguri, it is like a bazaar. They mix all sorts of things with the slit of their hand and make a medicine. We should be able to have a pharmacopoeia that is based in Maiduguri, that is for Kayan Shire, which is not necessarily have to be something to do in the West. Yes, people will die. That's what happens in medicine. People died before we were able to know all these drugs that we are using. People died before we were able to know that penicillin can be able to cure certain diseases. Yes, it can be regulated, but we shouldn't regulate it to the point of stifling the creativity that is in those places. It is worse, the quackery that we have in adulterated drugs that are coming from Asia and so on. It's worse than what our native doctors are doing. You see on television, you are in the media, you see on television every time the amount of products that are coming from Asia, particularly that it is. And also from a biodynamic point of view, it is even dangerous for you to take anything that is not made locally, particularly food substances, because most of them carry heavy metals when they come in. Most of them carry chemicals that are not the same thing as ours. It is difficult for people to appreciate that if you have a banana that is Nigerian, it is not the same thing as the banana you buy in safe fridges in the UK. It's not the same at all. Our own banana is far superior because of the content of the chemicals around it where it was cultivated. The one they have there is a factory manufactured one, which are also toxic.
Prof, let's move away from pharmacognosy and all of that. I mean, our viewers watching you, they know that you were once upon a time the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Nigeria. And this is election season, and they would like to know what you think of the process. But I'll ask Adesua to start with that.
Many thanks, Ruben. Recently, Prof, your name made the headlines concerning the Osun election. You have quickly denied that statement to our sister publication this day. However, I want to get your take on the conduct of recent elections in the country, Ekiti and Osun as examples.
You know, suddenly I develop amnesia when it comes to elections. I can't remember what happened in Osun again. Tell me.
The election in Osun was inconclusive, and it was said that you made a comment regarding the inconclusiveness of that election, saying that it was not constitutional. Tell us, did you or did you not, and what is your take?
No, I didn't make any comment. As I said, these days
No, Prof, you made a comment.
And election.
You made a comment.
I didn't take my medicine when I was coming, Ruben.
No, what you said.
I didn't take my medicine when I was coming this morning.
No, this is not about medicine. What you said at the time was that the decision to declare an election inconclusive was something that was introduced, as a sleight of hand to address specific situations. Right? And that was not to be applied, for example, in certain situations, particularly presidential elections. That's what you were quoted as having said. What exactly is the situation after the fact?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But I read the person who said it, and the person was talking about a committee that was set up long after I had left INEC. When I was in office, you will bear with me that there were only very few occasions where we had inconclusive elections. And inconclusive, we don't now postpone it to be conducted a long time after that. So I wasn't the person who said that. And as I also said It was done, the committee was done after I had left, not long, it was done after I had left INEC. I know the person who made the statement, but the media credited me with the statement, apparently to give it some
yeah, but for purposes of clarity, who made that statement? Who did? We would like to know.
When the people, I think somebody who was in INEC at the time. But
he doesn't have a name? Mention the name, let's know. Prof.
No, I'm in public television, so even that I have to even still verify whether it was him. But let us not concern ourselves about who made the statement. I didn't make it. But I think the point is to look at what was stated in that particular statement. The whole issue had to be looked into. And election management is not just only about counting votes and so on. Certain decisions, when you have to look at the impact that decision can make on the polity and even on the stability of the country and even on the security of the country. If you somebody winning and losing is not enough to throw the country into such a confusion. That's my personal take. But in terms of politics as a whole, as I said, I develop amnesty. I don't even follow what is going on. I spend more of my time looking at cucumber, turmeric, ginger, lemongrass, these days, and I find it much more comfortable dealing with plants than politics. I really, and it's at least the plants, wherever you put them, they'll be you can measure it, and they are much more quantitative.
No, Prof, you are dodging at this was question. You are dodging at this was question.
No, Ruben, you are more trained in that aspect than I am.
No,
so
as a former chairman, of the Electoral Commission, I mean, just tell us, what do you think of INEC's level of preparedness?
Yes. Yeah, there is like building any house. What you see, you can go into a building and you see this beautiful house. You praise the architect, you praise the painter, you praise the people who did the good work. But most of what they are doing will be underground. Most of their preparedness is totally underground. And except if you are there with them, you will not be able to appreciate what's happened. I think it's actually not INEC. We should blame the politicians. You remember as far back as 2006, I was prepared to introduce the electronic voting system. We had the wherewithal. We were ready, more than ready to introduce it. But there was a law that was passed preventing us from using the electronic voting system. We had already instituted a mechanism that could transmit the results from the polling units straight down to the center. Even on the road to the airport road, I had a control center where it was a state-of-art electronic center. But because people were more interested in short-term politicking, it was not done. If we had done that in 2007, we would have made some mistakes and so on along the line. But by now, we could have perfected the system. And like I said, I started with science. In a human environment, if you want to do something so perfectly that you will not make a mistake, then you are not human. Because all human efforts are bound to be defective because we are not perfect. But by now, we would have perfected the entire system. At that time, I was talking about our voters card as being a gold standard, and people were saying I was comparing us to America. And up to now, I still maintain it that the the PVC that we introduced in 2006, 2007, is still the best in the whole world. Because it has almost the same features as a bank card. And I think that is what INEC is still using. They have printed several versions of it since then. But we have to be patient as a people. It's difficult to judge INEC from what is superficial. Most of what they do are really done behind the scene, and they're very tedious and very time-consuming. Until when they tell us that they have problems, we shouldn't assume that they have problems.
Prof, talking about mistakes and someone who has been a part of the system, given the benefits of hindsight, if you had the opportunity to do over again the 2007 elections, what would you do differently?
I think I have to reflect on that. As I said, my thinking and my obsession is still with health and with particularly.
For the second time, Prof, you're deflecting my question this morning.
No, I'm not deflecting your question. Frankly, what I'm telling you is actually the fact here. Since I left INEC, I've done 3 books. And none of them is on politics. None of them is even on reflection. I've not actually sat down to reflect. And one of those that really believe that you take action, that it is better you take action. It might be, you may make mistakes, you may do it right, and you may do it wrong. But what you cannot excuse myself anytime is inaction and indecisiveness. I just don't. I don't like weak people. I don't like people who provocate and try to not to take specific decision on what they want to do. If you don't know what to do, just get out and let some other person do it. So what I'm more concerned now is how to make Nigerians healthier and how to make older people like me live a more functional life. And
Prof,
and
well, we'll let you go shortly.
Enjoy their old age. Yes, Ruben.
Prof, we'll let you go shortly. But if you were to have a one-on-one meeting with the president, hello, can you hear me? Yeah, if you were to have a one-on-one meeting.
Hello, Ruben, I can't hear you.
Really?
I just lost you.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. If you were to have a one-on-one meeting with the present chairman of INEC, as he's preparing to take Nigeria through another general election, what kind of advice will you give him?
Yes.
That one you cannot say you have been concentrating on plants. What will you be saying to him one-on-one?
Well, if one-on-one, if I give him advice, one of the things you'll be sure, based on how I see this thing, I will not make it public. If I have one-on-one with him, it will be something that will be for his own ears only. Because he's handling a very difficult job. All he does is our prayers and our collaboration and cooperation. And also the whole idea that if a man wakes up in the morning, people now accuse him of intent to do something he has not thought about. He has not even entered his head. We should also have sympathy for him. He has all my support and prayers. If I have advice for him, I will do that privately.
Well, I think what you've done, Prof, and tell me if I'm wrong, is to avoid a situation whereby you are not seen to be criticizing your successor. So I understand, having been in that environment before. Will you agree with me?
No. Far from it. If he does something wrong in the interest of the country, I will criticize him. But what I'm trying to say, if it is advice, I will give to him a one-on-one. That's what I'm saying. And he needs our prayers. I've been there before. If he drives a car that is made from a particular car shop, somebody will take the plate number of the marketing sticker on it and say, look, he's now buying car from party A. If his wife goes shopping in a particular supermarket more than twice, people will now say he's patronizing this particular. So it's a difficult job. He has all my sympathy. But what I'm trying to say that if I have any advice, I have direct contact with him if I want to. So why will I go into the national TV to tell him that? I will call him. I'll say that I need to talk with you and tell him that why don't you consider this? I was only why don't you consider this because he's the only one who has all the
helicopter view
picture.
Anyway, thank you very much, Prof.
Yes, overview of the whole thing.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Thank you for coming to the morning show. I'm sure we'll invite you again, maybe to review the general elections. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof.
And it's now time for a short break.